Breaking news to share on the Capitol Hill riots. FBI investigators are reportedly closing in on what they're calling an assailant in the death of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick. The New York Times and Washington Post reporting that investigators pinpointed a person on video who attacked officers, including Sicknick, with a chemical spray. Also, some pretty shocking new body cam video. Federal prosecutors say it shows a former NYPD officer, that man in red right there, charging a D.C. police officer during the riot. We certainly saw a lot of that guy in different video. New charges against 6 indicted members of the Proud Boys white nationalist group, now additionally charged with conspiracy to impede the Electoral College count. And a new deadly threat looms over the Capitol. This one involves President Biden's upcoming address to Congress.
We know that members of the militia groups that were present on January 6th have stated their desires that they want to blow up the Capitol and kill as many members as possible with a direct nexus to the State of the Union, which we know that date has not been identified.
Joining me now, Clint Watts, former FBI special agent, distinguished research fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute, and of course, an NBC News analyst and contributor. Clint, welcome to you. It's good to see you. So when I heard the D.C. acting chief saying that these groups are targeting a joint session of Congress, pretty chilling, actually. I'm curious what your reaction is to that, and how realistic is that kind of threat? Does it square with what you've been monitoring?
Alex, it sure doesn't sound like that's a pro-free speech or pro-Second Amendment group, right? It seems like an insurrectionist group. And we've seen quite a bit of that online. I think that's the key point. A lot of these militia groups hide behind this, we're here for free speech or we're here to protect gun rights. That's not what that is if you're talking about blowing up the Capitol. That's very clearly an anti-government militia. I think that's where the distinction is. That's open advocating of violence that allows the FBI and state and local law enforcement to investigate them. I imagine it is correct. There have been online threats for months regarding members of Congress, Congress as a whole, elected officials throughout the United States, predominantly those that are noted in President Trump's tweets of many months ago. I don't think it's realistic that such a plot would unroll. At this point, there's never been more security around the Capitol. And I think the FBI is closing in daily across the country, arresting 1, 2, 3 individuals every single day in multiple jurisdictions.
Yeah, and I've been told by you and others that they are not going to rest until they feel they've got every single one that they need to go after. Let me ask you, though, about a couple of new items on the Capitol Hill police officer who died, of course, Brian Sicknick. There was the spray that was used. Some say it was bear spray. Is that what you suspect? And authorities also have an image of the person who sprayed, but there's not a name. How unusual is that? Is it just a matter of time?
I do. I just think it's a matter of time, Alex. They're not going to let that one go. That's the pinnacle of this entire investigation. That's a homicide that happened at the Capitol against a law enforcement officer. In terms of the chemical, I really don't know. It's hard to know what was in that. Things that are readily available that can project further, that is a bear spray or a bear repellent, animal repellent kind of spray. But we don't actually know if that was the cause of death. There's a lot that's just, unknown in this investigation, particularly around that officer. What I would like to say about it is that this is the focal point, or should be the focal point. I'm sure the FBI will run it to ground. But it's also strange when we were back at those hearings last week to hear Senator Hawley, who seemed concerned about law enforcement, but yet was out there, urging on the rallies, really pumping that up. It seems like that's a very duplicitous stance when you're looking at the outcomes of what happened to that law enforcement officer that day.